Ladies and gentlemen, very good evening. We are in Circular November. This is the 15th conference. We were learning about the circular economy. Tonight, we have the pleasure of introducing you to Mr. Waquesa Sablon, whom we thank for his contribution. The topic of his presentation is Sustainable Development Goals and Circular Economy Opportunities and Challenges. Waquesa Sablon is a regional coordinator for the African Circular Economy Network, ACEN, organizer for CEC Nairobi chapter and founder of the UON Big Share program. He is also a designer with Circular Design Nairobi. He applies his skills and knowledge to create solutions that promote circular and sustainable. He has a deep understanding of the Kenyan solid waste and plastic value chains, having worked and impactant consultant with Resources Global, a business developer, lead and flip floppy projects, a community strategy at Bins Plastic Climate, and consultant for several other companies like UEFA Enterprise. He has also contributed the development of course materials for HINUR master program in circular agroeconomy at University of Rwanda and co-authored an EU report on African circular economy. As a facilitator, he worked on the 2022 Repair and Reuse study funded by FCDO. He holds a Bachelor of Arts Design degree from University of Nairobi. Waquesa uses various research methods to listen, understand, and evaluate the need and preference of users. He aims to empathize with the users how much as possible and communicate their goals and wants, needs and joys and challenges to product things in order to create a product that truly serves the users. Mr. Sablon, please, can you start with your presentation?
Yeah, thank you very much, Miguel. I'm based in Nairobi and I work regionally, and I'm really delighted to be part of this global session and share my experiences. Yeah, first of all, I'll start by saying that the circular economy is something that has existed in our everyday practices within our own, let me say, indigenous communities and beyond. And with an age of industrialization, especially in our context, we are seeing a lot of pressure to move away from circularity and find ways in which now we can integrate that. So the circular economy is built on 3 principles, and I'll introduce the first. So the first principle is keeping materials at their highest value possible. The second principle is regenerating natural systems. And the third principle is designing out waste. But the principle that they forgot to add there was community. Community is what makes everything happen. And be it in Africa or South or North America or the global South, community matters the most. There are 2 things that go synonymous. First of all, we know that consumption is life. So humans will consume. We've consumed from time immemorial. But there's also this, from a psychology point of view, there's also this saying that thinking is to humans as swimming is to cats. We all can, but we prefer not to. So if we come up with solutions that push us to, they make us difficult to use, then we just simply won't pick them up. So this boils down to, how do we now come up with these circular innovations? How do we come up with these circular interventions? And I'm going to do a quick screen share so that I can just walk you through what I mean by that. Yeah, so let me just share my screen. There we go. You can see my screen now. Yeah, so what I'm sharing is some of the interventions around circularity. So what we need to look at is, how do we encourage circular behavior? And this is the circular consumption behavior. So we're looking at the
yeah. Excuse me, but Jessica, could you please project the whole screen? It's kind of small.
All right. Let me just
I think in the bottom there's an option.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. All right. Let me just. Just a second. I should be there in a bit. All right. So I'm unable to share the whole presentation.
On the bottom, you have an option there. On the bottom row. At the bottom, yeah, that will go down. There is an option there. The next one, no. Move, yeah, a little bit more. No. There is an option that click the option. Yeah, that one.
But it keeps. All right. Ah, fantastic. Thank you very much. So what we have here is a study that talks about, how to create circular consumption behaviors. So why do we need circular consumption behaviors? When we look at this, we look at how to reduce material flows. How do we reduce materials that go into the products we consume every day? So we look at making do with what exists, then encouraging things like to borrow items or services or shared services. Then we encourage also sourcing items secondhand. Then when we start here, then we start making a bit of sense. Then we also look at buying items to last. So if you go to a shop, then you want to procure something that will stay for much more longer. Then we're also looking at buying items made from circular materials. So what are these circular materials? These circular materials are materials that, have been circulated within the economy. So you're looking at recycled plastics. You're also looking at materials like paper, which is working within this circular economy ecosystem. So paper that can be recycled. You're also looking at high quality, cotton that is also made to last. Yeah, you're also looking at recycled metal per se and precious material from e-waste. Yeah, then keeping materials in use. So you want to keep materials in use for as long as possible. And how do you do this? By encouraging repair and investing in repair and use. And what we do best is also passing down items and passing back. So we have a lot of systems here in Africa, but also I believe in the global South, where we do very well in that. So the huge opportunity to tap into circularity actually works here, where we can directly reduce the number of new products entering the economy, right? So sometimes when we are sourcing items secondhand, then this also slightly undermines that core opportunity. But when we look at, making do with existing materials, then borrowing new items, then we really encourage that behavior. But at the same time, buying materials from made out of circularity, that directly reduces the amount of material that enters the economy. So we're looking at how to directly reduce the new materials, because these new materials are made out of virgin material, which means that we are tapping into, continuing with mining and extraction, or just exploiting ecosystem services. And we're looking at how do we now encourage these behaviors. There are other behaviors that are super useful, but do not necessarily directly impact on material consumption so these are the keeping materials in use, then repair and passing them on. So these are encourageable circular consumption behaviors, but they don't necessarily impact directly on reducing materials. Yeah, so I'll stop my presentation there, then just walk you through the whole process. So how do we now make sure that circularity is onboarded within this framework of sustainable development? So the sustainable development goals are now being executed within a framework. The NDCs, every country has to come up with its national determined goals, and within that we have commitments, and some of these commitments are executed within a roadmap. So within these frameworks, we have a new roadmap that might be of interest to at national level, and this is the circular economy roadmap. So we have quite a number of countries that have developed circular economy roadmap, and we have a very elaborate tool that was churned out by Citra. Citra is a Finnish company, and we can see case studies. We just launched the continental roadmap for Africa was just approved yesterday at Africa Union level. Then Rwanda was one of the African countries to launch the circular economy roadmap. But beyond this, we have almost like 25 countries worldwide that have launched circular economy roadmap. What these roadmaps do is they are able to give you an action plan and also integrate circularity into those national determined contributions, the NDCs, and they go up to local level. For instance, in Kenya, we have on local government, we have a framework that's called the County Integrated Development Plan. So there are action points within a local government level. Now, how does this work, or how does this stimulate circularity? So some of those circular consumption behaviors that I just shared are domicile or are executed within the community level. Now, when it comes to community level, for instance, in Kenya right now, waste is a devolved function. And so the responsibility has been taken from national government to local government. So local government is the one that has responsibility over the citizens to ensure that waste is managed in appropriate ways. So if there are any people who are supposed to execute those actions, rightfully so, it's the local government. So giving local government tools and an action plan is key priority. For instance, right now, there needs to be investment in behavior change within households so that they can introduce sorting at source, so that people can segregate their waste now, so that materials, so that we tap into that one of the principles for circularity, which is keeping materials at the highest value possible at household level. But that is only possible when the county government has a mandate. And, you know, sometimes, as I said about thinking, if you make things difficult, then it makes it very hard for people to adopt them. So we have to make that behavior as easy as possible. And how we do this is to eliminate all barriers and just make it as easy as, you know, maybe currently households are just given one bag. So is it possible for households to be given 2 bags? Then one bag is for wet organics, then the other bag is for recyclables. Then now we have different collection days so that we can avoid cross-contamination. So this means that we'll have more licenses or more provisions under the county government, so that managers, waste managers or waste pickers or whoever manages waste can be able to have a bigger access to the households, and also infrastructure like transfer stations so that we can segregate that. And also, you know, MRFs and licensing and investment for more people to manage the waste, the material streams. Yeah, so within that framework, it's very actionable because it's touching directly on this county, on this local governments. But without these roadmaps, then it makes it very difficult for even these county governments to have a standard operation. Yeah, and this goes down to other materials. You know, when you look at precious metals, and when you look at e-waste, and when you look at also, you know, hazardous substances and organic waste. So when you look at our context in Africa or just in Kenya, 60% of that waste that comes out of household actually is organic waste, but it's organic waste and it's also contaminated. So the opportunity that was there to turn it into compost and make it, you know, like a soil additive becomes lower because it's already contaminated. But when we introduce that circular consumption behavior, then we can be able to extract more value. For instance, we have a case study of a company that's called Regen Organics. Regen Organics is one of the biggest urban manufacturers within that waste management space. So they started out by just providing sanitation facilities in low-income settlements. So they had like toilets, and they could come and empty those toilets and manage that waste. But they also tapped into food waste from hotels, and they just take that material flow, food waste and also horticultural waste. Then they take it to and they can manage almost like 30 tons a day. And they introduce black soldier flies. And these black soldier flies are able to cut down that organic waste by 70%. So these black soldier flies grow from a size of almost I'd say less than 5 millimeters to almost 11 millimeters. Is it 11 or almost 2 inches over a period of 11 days to a week. And then it's an industrial process. They are separated from the other residue, and this black soldiers larvae is actually treated into high protein meal for feeding. Okay, they're still making tests if it can feed, it can be used for human consumption, because I know other countries use it for protein shakes for people who go to the gym, but currently it's being used as an animal feed for chicken, for poultry, and for for farmers who rear pigs. So yeah. So then another output from that company is actually fertilizer. So it's called Evergrow, and this fertilizer is used as a soil additive. Yeah, very high. It has very high nutrients. Then the other output is actually briquettes, industrial grade briquettes. And these industrial grade briquettes are actually very sourced after, and they are used within industry to, heat water and just run operations that require heating. But the thing about Regen Organics is, for instance, their protein feed is ordered out almost like 6 months in advance. So, and 1 ton goes for, the last time I checked, it was going for $1,200 per ton. Yeah. So there's huge value in, making sure that circular consumption behavior is encouraged, but we can only do so within that sustainable development goal framework. When we integrate it in this existing framework, then we can extract more value in it, because it now cuts across, national plans, and it's made more understandable by legislators so that we can push an envelope on it. And I can go on giving case studies. I can give a case study of what is happening within a bit of the midstream. So consumption within our counties, especially with food systems, they've set up. We're now setting up formal markets. So we had informal markets, but we're now setting up formal markets. So it's like a 4-story modern building, and all the informal vendors who are out on the streets are inside there, and they have a very clean environment where they sell food. And so we're looking, the county governments again went out to look for solutions on how to manage these formal food markets, because they had a lot of organic waste. So they tapped into another provider who's called FlexiBiogas. And FlexiBiogas is now prototyping, intercepting the this organic waste from markets, because most of this organic waste fills up the landfills. So he wants to, the organization wants to intercept this organic waste before it reaches the market. And how they are doing so is they set up a fertilizer facility that takes the dry waste and turns it into compost. But the wet waste, which is usually fruits and stuff, it's actually taken and fed into a biogas digester. Now, the biogas digester is actually used to produce energy that dries fruits. And now you can have these crispy fruits that are actually dried, and they last a bit longer. Then they also have like a liquid fertilizer that's high in nutrients that's also used to like soil additive. But at the same time, the liquid fertilizer also works as an insect repellent. It's a natural pesticide. So it's just fed within a sprinkling system or an irrigation system. And it also just protects the vegetables from aphids and other pests that feed on the vegetables. So we have midstream, we have a lot of interventions that work around that. Now upstream, and some of these interventions that happen upstream the value chain. For instance, I'll give you a case study of plastics. They call for national level intervention, but some of these behaviors are actually picked up in local households. So whenever the county governments feel that, certain materials are just being chaotic, then they can escalate that to a national level where we have a ban maybe in thin film gauge plastics, because they are a huge problem and they are the cause of contamination. So all those material flows, especially organic waste, if you have a thin film bag, then you'll put there your organic waste, and it will become very difficult for you now to segregate. So if in case there is a ban, then you also put pressure on these manufacturers to now think of alternative delivery methods. And that's where we see a lot of waste, I call it product dispensers, and where we encourage refill and reuse. So the refill and reuse should be as easy as possible. I'll give you an example of milk ATMs. In our locality, we have milk ATMs that really help reduce packaging. So for every half a liter of milk, we were consuming packaging with it, and it came with a price. But with the introduction of milk ATMs, now we have reduced the amount of packaging that goes into delivery of milk, because now you can just come with your refill, your bottle, and buy milk directly from a milk ATM. So milk is pasteurized. And also that has also now moved to cooking oil, and we're reducing a lot of packaging there. So there's that element of reuse of the plastic cans that people use to either carry milk or cooking oil. But that's a study that's ongoing, because plastic degrades. But just these interventions that really help to reduce the materials that are being introduced within the material flows within the value chains are extremely important. And all this works within that SDG framework. So you're looking at SDG 17 that looks at, partnerships. You're looking at impacting SDG 11, SDG 12 that talks about production and consumption. You're also looking at impacting, SDG 13, because some of these material flows now are not being dumped within land and also affecting life in the sea. Yeah, so circularity really works in ways that are back to back with sustainability, and it enhances that. And more so with the country roadmaps, we're able now to see the direct value of that when we integrate that within our national determined contributions, and we go to national level where we look at these local government integrated development plans that give our local legislators some form of framework to now execute within that local framework. Yeah, thank you very much, and back to you, Miguel. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sablon. Are you interesting presentation? We have two questions. Okay. One question is for you: what are the benefits of a country's circular economy roadmap?
Yeah. Very well, because I had mentioned them a bit earlier in the presentation, but the benefits of the countries, the benefits of the country's circular economy, the roadmaps is, first of all, it gives the actors within the national government and the local government a framework to be able to execute circularity, and this also cuts down to also the investors. So it also builds a lot of investor confidence, because if there's an existing framework, then there's a way in which we can be able to take forward circularity. Then it also inspires others to become more involved in the transition, and it also increases the visibility of circular economy related policies. Now, one of the key areas that it also touches on, it builds a path from plan to action, and with very clear ownership. When, like, the processes in which I described, they were very clear in terms of who owns the process. The other important thing is it engages all stakeholders and actors in this process of transition from linear systems to circular systems. Yeah, that having that value chain approach is what is key, and it integrates all these actors, because we have people who are waste managers downstream, but we take their feedback or from waste pickers, and we're able to use that feedback to design new products upstream, and now encourage behaviors that are upstream sponsored, that make life for waste pickers much more easier.
It's okay. Thank you. In the messenger is 2 questions. Please, the answer, please.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the questions. Yeah, in terms of our country, well, Kenya has really good policies, but sometimes implementation becomes a bit of a challenge. And Kenya is a leader in terms of policies. And we are lucky to also be able to influence sometimes the EU. And yeah, the good part is now we implement together, because if we don't implement as a block, then for instance, cross-border material flows, if we ban thin film gauge plastics, for instance, in Kenya, and we don't ban in neighboring countries, then the materials will still find ourselves, they'll still find themselves in the environment. Why? Because these borders were just put there geographically, but in terms of nature, streams, water bodies all flow within the same region. So we won't have done any good just banning in Kenya alone, yet we use a lot of water that flows all over from all over the region, and people move from all over the region with their items. Yeah, so one of the things that we really advocate for within that Africa Circular Economy Network is to be able to share policies and influence policies cross borders, so that we have we all move together as a block when we are moving from the linear system to the circular system. So we all move together. In terms of political willingness to promote this, it's actually domicile in advocacy. So why is it important to have circular economy practitioners and have conversations like this, and have capacity building for local politicians, so that we can be able to explain to them the benefits of circularity and why it matters? When we do that, then it becomes much more easier for us to, it becomes much more easier for us to articulate that and to get traction, because we all assume that politicians are supposed to understand these complex matters, but really what they are focused on their governance first. Then slowly, if we don't interest them in these topics, then they wouldn't necessarily know about it, right? So we need to also be active citizens and educate them, share in the way they understand best. Or organize local exhibitions and showcases where we invite them to come and witness some of these things that we talk about. Yeah, let me just share some of the tools I'll share. I'll share the links for the Africa Circular Economy Network, the roadmap. I'll share the links to the roadmap. Circular Economy Roadmap. So I'm just sharing the roadmaps. This and roadmap and SDG. It's actually a tool that it talks about that integration. Well, all right. Just a second. Yeah, but if you have any more questions, then you can keep sharing them.
Okay, no problem.
The link is here, I've shared. So the link that I've shared is a practical toolkit and to building circularity into your national determined contributions. And it walks you through some of the things that I've said in terms of process. And the tool is quite new. It was just launched a few months ago. I don't think it's been it has been legally not formally launched, but here is the tool. So it walks you through the process. Stage 1, then stage 2, then stage 3, then stage 4, policy and evaluation. It's one of those very interesting roadmaps in terms of integration. And when you look at your national determined contributions and how you integrate circularity, then it gives you even talking points when you're doing local advocacy. So I'd really recommend that you have a look at the tools, and it has really good case studies within country levels, like how countries are integrating certain components of circularity within within their national determined contributions, and how you can now do that. And once you integrate it nationally, then you're able to look at how to now break it down to a very local level, because this is a framework that already exists. So this is the site. You can download the tool and just have a look at it and see how you can, work with it. I know, maybe if I can ask, do we have which country do we have any examples of countries that have roadmaps that you know of, the circular economy roadmaps?
Está preguntando Miguel si conocemos algún país que tienen roadmaps a un país que tengamos como ejemplo de roadmaps en América Latina o en otro país. Lo que acaba de mostrar creo que es un ejemplo de roadmap, como un mapa de cómo se hace la economía circular, ¿no? ¿Tienes ejemplo?
No, I don't know.
No, we don't have examples, but we will share
now
it.
this, Now this is an opportunity for us to also build. So it's a nice share. I don't know if it has been translated yet, but if it hasn't, then we need to advocate. We'll work on just coordinating so that it's updated, so that the tool is actually useful for bigger audiences. But
Okay,
it's,
so just
yes?
one question. Is this roadmap for like all levels of government, like from national level going to local level?
Yes. So whatever I've shared is a toolkit that helps you, that gives you a way to now integrate circular economy roadmaps with into national determined contributions. As you know, national determined contributions came with SDGs and climate act. So they give us a roadmap to actually to mitigate climate change. But the tool that I've shared now helps you to build circularity into that framework, so that we don't see circular economy action as being as our roadmaps as competing with the climate action roadmaps. So we streamline that, then it becomes more easier for us to have action points. So integrating circularity within NDCs makes it easier for us now to work, and it streamlines our operation, but at the same time also reduces the level of confusion. And it's like, okay, what do we choose? Do we choose circularity or do we choose climate action? But when we integrate it, when we create circular economy roadmaps and we integrate them, then we work within just a single instance of implementation, and it makes it much more easier for adoptability. So it's a really good action point. But circular economy roadmaps need to be developed independently. And there are quite a number of case studies of circular economy roadmaps from other countries. Even in the practical guide, we have those country roadmaps already that are out, that have been showcased.
Okay. What is your final recommendation to improving the circular economy?
Yeah, so my final recommendation is community action now and reaching out to influencing the political class and the leadership class. How we do this is coming up with these policy frameworks that are tangible and act as guiding lights to integration. We have a lot of circular economy interventions that are happening, but we need this policy action, these policy documents that guide that implementation and make it in terms of law and make it easier for it to be articulated and for it to be practiced. So it's important for us to start considering developing circular economy roadmaps and also learning from the people who countries and regions who have roadmaps. And now we have tools like this one, thanks to the UN, that can now help us also know how to integrate them within the existing frameworks so that we don't view circularity as something that is just standalone, but integrate it within other frameworks that exist.
Okay. Once again, we appreciate Mr. Sablon for your contribution in this networking and also all the participants. See you the next conference. Thank you very much, Sablon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the answers. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a delight.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
All right, bye.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.